I am looking for the best wrestling game in existence. Hi folks and welcome to another exciting episode of Gadget Hunter. I'm your lovable host John Morris, and today we are reviewing yet again another exciting wrestling game. Now there have been so many great wrestling games over the years. There's also been some serious flops as well, and as someone who grew up around the wrestling era from the 80s, 90s, the noughties and beyond, I was privileged to get to play a lot of the wrestling games from the nostalgia era. But before we go on, we want to thank you so much for watching. We want to remind you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do all that great stuff. Tell your friends, because it could be the very thing they need to hear and see in an hour of maybe struggle if they're looking for nostalgia games and for wrestling. And of course, you have the opportunities to win big and win great prizes as well. Today, we are going to be reviewing another wrestling game, of course. And as you can see behind me, we are going to be reviewing WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge. Came out in 1992. Characters surrounding it was from WrestleMania 8. And of course, that was in the Hoosier Dome. And of course, you have on the NES version the likes of Jake the Snake Roberts, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase, The Mountie, The Undertaker, who was it? Rowdy Roddy Piper, Sid Justice, and more. Bret Hart, of course, Intercontinental Champion as well. Now, on the Sega version as well, you had some replacements, namely Ric Flair, Tatanka, Shawn Michaels, and Papa Shango as well. And of course, on the NES version, I'm forgetting as well, IRS, of course. Who could forget IRS and the Mountie and more? There was so much great stuff. Now, of course, last time we looked at WrestleMania Challenge, which was out back in 1990. This game is a very, very different look. It is put together by LJN, which I believe is the same company that put together WrestleMania Challenge. But as you will see here, time has not necessarily been very kind to LJN, and especially WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge. Oh boy. So, in WrestleMania Challenge, back in 1990, you had great music, great-looking wrestlers, great-looking field moves, stuff that really, really hit well. You had, actual character moves. Steel Cage Challenge really doesn't have that, and doesn't really have much going for it at all. So bear in mind, we are scoring this on playability, story, if there is one, enjoyment / nostalgia, and graphics. This one immediately to me felt like a more mature game, and what I mean by that is the look and feel of it feels like it was created by older people who didn't really know very much about wrestling. Whereas WrestleMania Challenge back in 1990 for WrestleMania 6 actually felt like a wrestling game. It felt enjoyable. It felt playable. As you're going to see here momentarily. Yeah, judge for yourself. And I'll see you in a moment. Now, what I will say for this is partly the most exciting part of the game. The music sounds good, the feel feels good, the music is good here. Gets a little bit of repetitive, but it's definitely, maybe it's just different. It sounds a better production of music than what it did before, but I think they kind of blew their sound budget in order to put this together. Okay, so you'll note straight away, intro-wise, it is different. It is an improvement, perhaps, or maybe just different. You've got Howard Finkel, of course, the Fink, doing the announcements, but as soon as you get into actual gameplay, this is what you're left with. It's not the worst looking wrestling game for sure, but it definitely isn't the best. You can tell that's Hulk Hogan, of course, the goatee, the hair, the trunks. Then you can tell that's the Mountie. You know, that although the Mountie looks incredibly tanned here, which Jacques Rougeau never, ever would be accused of being. Hulk looks fairly tanned, of course, here. But you'll notice, yes, there's an audience, but it's just, I don't know, it feels darker, it doesn't feel as enjoyable. Yes, you can climb the top turnbuckles, but there's just a lot of kicking and punching. There's a lot of crotch smashing by the looks of it, and yes, you can whip people off the ropes either way, but it's a much harder game to play. It doesn't feel necessarily as enjoyable. Let's skip on ahead, shall we? Okay, so what I want to get to here is obviously the Steel Cage challenge mode. You'll notice that there are no ring ropes around. That noise you just heard is a new feature in the game, which is if you are struggling, you're almost beaten, you can press the select button on the NES to get renewed health. But trying to climb up the cage, I always remember as a child being infuriatingly difficult. There's no ring ropes. You can't climb up turnbuckles or anything. Just jumping randomly and following the floor. From a presentation point of view, it looks okay, you know, but it's only okay. It's not going to get higher than sort of a 4 or a 5 in terms of that. So Hulk climbs up. He doesn't climb down the other side. He just stands there like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, raising his hands. The music then plays, and away you go. I think it could have been better. I really think that had they taken the WrestleMania Challenge, the original WrestleMania Challenge, and used that formula, can you imagine that gameplay with a cage? My goodness, that would be great. Any mods out there that are putting together something, and that's something to definitely put in. There is a nostalgia point of view for sure. Obviously, hearing Bret Hart's music, Hulk Hogan's music, Owen Arsheitz's typewriter as well. I would give that probably a 7 from that point of view. In terms of overall gameplay, it's really not that enjoyable. It really isn't, and I would have to give it probably a 3 or a 4. I remember actually switching this game off fairly early on. To be fair, I gave it multiple chances and stuff, and there is stuff you can do in it, but compared to what we had at WrestleMania Challenge, this just does not feel as enjoyable. You're going to hear a lot of that crowd noise, that sort of, you know, just terrible. The other thing to point out as well is, if you didn't know, could you tell that was Roddy Piper? You know, that could be any number of wrestlers. The challenge mode is basically a simple beat 'em up sort of game. There's nothing overly complicated or difficult about it. I always thought here that Jake the Snake Roberts looked more like one of the head shrinkers than anything else, because the boots that they've got, he actually looks like he's just wearing bare feet. Toward the end of the game, we'll let this play on so you can see, but for winning the entire game, I don't recall it being something massively memorable. I do remember the gameplay getting very, very difficult as time went on for sure. So it just wasn't that enjoyable. Let's skip on ahead. But for what I will say is, for the inventiveness and ingenuity of adding a steel cage in from that point of view, I thought it was a good idea, even though there hadn't been a steel cage match in quite some time. And the picture that you see behind me actually has Randy Savage and the $1 Million Man. That came from like GTA. So there was definitely something that was missing there. And this is the final thing. If you are, looking for, what happens at the end, it is a nice touch for sure. I think it is better than WrestleMania Challenge, the original. That for what you have to go through essentially to get there, I don't know that it's that great. So let's review, shall we, and take a look at the final stats as the Hulkster music is playing there, or the opening music is playing there. Okay, so in terms of the playability, it isn't that enjoyable, I'll be honest. There's a lot of punching, kicking. Yes, you can jump off the ropes, but it's quite difficult to navigate, especially if you're younger. There are no sort of main finishing moves, so you're not going to see a gorilla press, you're not going to see Hulkster's leg drop, you're not going to see Ric Flair's figure four or the sharpshooter, you're not going to see Shawn Michaels' savate kick or the side suplex that he used to use. It's basically every wrestler has the same moves. So from that point of view, meh. In terms of a story, it's your simple beat 'em up. You start with the easiest, you finish with the hardest, which I believe is Randy Savage. It's again, meh. From an enjoyment and nostalgia point of view, it's something that from a music point of view, from a memory point of view, I always remember just feeling a darker game, a sort of meh game, a game where I was more interested probably in the music than I actually was in the gameplay itself. And then finally, from a graphics point of view, as you saw, it isn't particularly great. Jake the Snake Roberts looks like one of the head shrinkers. On the whole, you can tell who the wrestlers are. It is definitely not the worst game out there, but if there was a top 50, I think it would probably be closer to the mid to high teens than it would be to anywhere near the top. So far, still in first place is WrestleMania Challenge from 1990. This one drops way, way back, and I kind of say, well, good riddance to it. It was a nice idea done by LJN, but I think they would have been better if they had put the 1992 roster in the WrestleMania Challenge sort of setting, and then worked on how to add a steel cage there. Can you imagine that game having Survivor Series, having the steel cage, having the elimination mode, tag team? My goodness, for the 90s, that would have been a phenomenal game. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better for LGN, and as we go through this series, you are going to find out why. But it's yet to be disclosed to me as to what we're looking at next and which game we're looking at next. So, but do stay tuned. Be surprised as I am, and hopefully it'll be a good surprise. If not, it may be a rant. And believe me, I've got some of those. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, folks. We are out of time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, because it could be the very thing for entertainment-wise and nostalgia-wise that they want to see and need to hear. Plus, it helps our little channel as well. And you also have the opportunity to win big, to get some cool prizes, and so much more. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video, and have a great week. Take care.